What's going on, everybody? This is Eddie from the Too Heavy Wrestling Podcast, and we're still counting down to 30 days till WrestleMania. Now we are on day 13. We're going to talk about the WrestleMania 22 matchup between Rey Mysterio, Kurt Angle, and Randy Orton for the World Heavyweight Championship. I think the most important thing to remember during this storyline is, of course, in November of 2005, Eddie Guerrero had passed away, and it seemed like Rey Mysterio had started dedicating his entire wrestling career towards Eddie Guerrero. This leading up to the Royal Rumble in 2006, Rey Mysterio outlasted 29 other competitors, entering at entrant number 2. And with being entrant number 2 means he had to leap over the highest of hurdles, but of course, eliminating Randy Orton to win the Royal Rumble match. Now, this had resulted in Randy Orton and Rey Mysterio kind of feuding because Randy Orton thought he was at the peak of his game and wanted to fight for the World Heavyweight Championship. Of course, him being ready for this opportunity, he wanted to do anything possible, which actually ended up with Randy Orton and Rey Mysterio feuding and to go into No Way Out. Randy Orton actually beat Rey Mysterio for the opportunity to compete against Kurt Angle at WrestleMania, and Rey Mysterio actually forfeiting his rights to do so. However, Theodore Lyon, with his tricks and trickery, was actually able to add Rey Mysterio back into the matchup. Now, of course, this was awesome for wrestling fans because everyone wanted to see Rey Mysterio defy the odds and beat Randy Orton and Kurt Angle. But for the untold story for Kurt Angle, he was kind of the underdog going into this matchup for most wrestling fans. Now, Kurt Angle was just the guy who had the belt. Randy Orton being one of the top heels in the WWE and Rey Mysterio being one of the top babyfaces in the WWE, it seemed like Kurt Angle didn't really have a spot in this matchup. But of course, he was the wrestling machine, and he even beat Mark Henry in a battle royal and then in a singles matchup, and then The Undertaker in a singles matchup leading up to this pay-per-view at WrestleMania 22. So the fact that he was the underdog after beating those two legends in the ring is completely unheard of, but of course this story was actually tailored for Rey Mysterio, so we want to touch more on him. Now, of course, we saw some amazing spots in this matchup. I remember a really great German suplex spot with Kurt Angle, Randy Orton, and Rey Mysterio all involved. However, the big thing that we got to see was, of course, Rey Mysterio rolling up Randy Orton to get the win and win the World Heavyweight Championship. Now, kind of leading up for the other two's careers, Randy Orton finally was getting more spotlight and within a couple years ended up being a multiple-time WWE champion. Now, for Kurt Angle, unfortunately, he did go through drug addiction, ended up leaving the company, but had one of the biggest moments in actually wrestling history, in my opinion, when Kurt Angle jumped ship over to TNA. But of course, Rey Mysterio getting the biggest overall victory in this matchup had a unfortunately lackluster World Heavyweight title run. He ended up losing the World Heavyweight Championship to Booker T, or King Booker, a few months later. So what if Rey Mysterio had a very lengthy reign? There are so many questions that you can ask based off of that reign and based off that amazing world title win, and just so many what-ifs come from that. But of course, having a beautiful moment like that with Rey dedicating his entire career to Eddie Guerrero was perfect. And I want to know what you guys thought about that too, with it being day 13 and talking about that World Heavyweight Championship matchup at WrestleMania 22. I want to hear your thoughts, your comments, and maybe what you want to see next. Until next time, though, this is Eddie with Too Heavy Wrestling Podcast, and we'll see you tomorrow for day 14.